Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3.
Can you hear me? All right. Test, test, test.
Good evening and welcome in
Welcome in to West Georgia TV and West Georgia TV Sports weekly football preview show. I'm your host, Tom Araquazo, alongside the coach, calling you the coach, Kel Singleton, and behind the camera and doing all the magic for us is Tim Araquazo. Welcome in, and first thing, let's talk a little bit about one of our sponsors. Want to give Cal Hardy a shout out. Cal is one of our sponsors here on West Georgia TV and West Georgia TV Sports. And Cal was with Whitetail Properties. He was a land specialist.
Yep.
He finished all of his extra schooling and stuff like that. And now Cal is a broker. Now, he's not just a land specialist, but now he's a broker. And he is with Arrowhead Land Company. It is your local rural real estate specialist. Cal Hardy, give him a call, 770-296-2163. And whenever I say this about Cal, Cal is he supports Tim's WBHS Sports. He does, helps us. He's going to come in on Friday night some and sit in with you on the Inception Energy Solutions post game show. So yeah, y'all play football together too.
Yeah,
you know Cal pretty good.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
Let's dive right into some football action from last week, Cal. First, let's talk a little bit about Central. They had a big win over Redan at home Friday night, 50-12. They looked pretty good.
They did.
And the freshman quarterback, he threw the ball well, made a couple of nice passes, ran for a touchdown, kind of easing him into a season. But those two running backs that they got over there, Walton and Bolton, those two guys could be special.
Oh, yeah.
For Central this year.
I think Walton touched the ball 4 times, and he almost scored on every single time he touched the ball. And, Bolton, he got a lot more carries than Jones did, but he did a good job too. And when in doubt, heck, hand the ball off, control the clock, and go win a ball game.
Well, we've talked about it before. One of the best things for a freshman playing at quarterback for you is to have a couple of good running backs that's going to help lead the way and help take that pressure off of him a little bit, especially early on.
Yeah, especially for like JR, you don't have to put a lot of pressure on him. He can relax, and maybe if he does make a freshman mistake, it's okay because those backs will make up for it.
Right.
Down on the next drive or whatever might come up. So, and you can balance your offense. Obviously, if you got 2 really good backs and a really good quarterback, it makes it a lot easier for an offensive play caller too. So, tip my hat to them. And Coach Brown, heck, we forget it was his first win.
Right.
He's an alum of Central, so that's it's got to be huge for him. Got a tough one coming up this week.
Yeah.
Definitely a different ball team than Redan. So we'll get to see how they get tested this week with Bowden for sure.
Yeah, in county rival, if you will. Going back to last year, Bowden was 14-1 on the season, went on and won the state championship. But the game that kind of sticks in their mind was we were almost perfect, but Central got us.
Yep.
Now they got to go to Central this Friday night. We'll talk a little bit more about next week's games in just a minute. But let's talk about Bowden. That was our game of the week last week. Went down, played another top 5 team in the state in Class Single A Division II in Manchester. It was a battle last year between the two. I think that Bowden pretty much just kind of wore them down in the second half. It was a 14-14 score, at halftime last year, and then Bowden wound up winning the game by a couple of scores.
One thing I noticed right off the rip, and Bowden fans will probably tell you were at the game, the biggest thing I noticed from Manchester from last year is they played extremely hard for 4 quarters.
Yes.
The whole different aspect of that last year, or this year versus last year, was way different. Like the Terry Justice, for example. Last year he kind of tapped,
Right.
Bowden's O-line worked on him a little bit. Not this year. I mean,
Right.
They gave incredible effort on plays. I think this year for them, they got that little bit of excitement in them. And plus, who wants to get beat 3 times within a calendar year by the same team?
By the
So I
same team.
feel like that chip on their shoulder was there, and they really did a great job with their effort plays and just finishing drives and things like that. So all you can do if you're a Bowden fan is honestly say, maybe we match up in the playoffs and get another shot at you. You can't be fault Manchester anything there. So
I do think this after watching the game, and I could be wrong, but I feel like that Manchester came into this game really wanting to win this football game. I'm not saying that Bowden didn't, but Bowden was kind of vanilla,
Yeah.
if you will. First game of the year, they didn't, they really didn't show a lot of stuff as far as I'm concerned. I feel like that coaching staff knows that win or lose last Friday night, they just needed to come out of there healthy, play a very good football team, and know that they're probably going to meet them somewhere down the road in week, 12, 13, and maybe there's some wrinkles that they throw in.
And another thing too, I think a lot of people forget is you lost a lot of kids Bowden did last year, and on top of that, let's not forget you lost Kerbo.
Right.
I mean that in itself, and you can go back and say, well, TJ, yada yada, and it wasn't about just TJ last year.
No.
You lost your whole O line. There was a lot more pieces there that made TJ what he was. And I don't think there's any team in this area that would have said, no, TJ, don't come play for me. So,
right.
You hear that all the time. But there was a lot of stuff that's got to be replaced from last year. So they're still trying to find themselves.
Well, not to mention it's the first game of the season.
That's right.
And Manchester's getting ready for a state championship Bowden football team to come in there. So they're going to make a statement. You're trying to make a statement because you're playing a team like that. I think they lost 17 seniors, if I'm not mistaken, Bowden did last year. And the big one, like you said, Kerbo. You got a guy who's won 2 state championships. In my opinion, he's probably the best OC in Georgia. That's just my opinion. He's one of the best. He can read a defense better, and he prepares better than anybody I've ever seen. But with that said, I still think that Bowden, they're kind of young. You got some guys stepping up into, a different role this year, and they got popped in the mouth early, against a team like that. That's when if I'm a coach, that's what I want to happen.
Yep.
I mean, I don't want to lose the football game.
Right.
But if there were any egos that happen to be in the room, they're in check now.
You're
and
definitely humbled quickly.
Yeah.
That's right. And they're ready to play football.
Yeah.
I think you'll see a different football team this weekend against Central. I mean, they want to win that football game. It was their only loss last year. They want that game.
Well, Bowden had a chance to win the football game.
They did.
Right at the end, a couple minutes and some change left in the game. They score. They go for 2. They didn't get it. They get it. Then everybody's happy.
Celebrate.
And the coach looks like the hero. They don't get it, and everybody's like, what is he doing down there?
Yep.
The man just went 14-1 and won.
Yep.
Him and his
Peanut
staff. And
peanut gallery is what it's called.
Exactly. But here's the thing that people don't see is exactly what we're talking about. Is that these coaches, they start looking down the road, and they understand you've done it. You scheme, you have to plan, and you have to plan down the road. You always want to go 1-0, and we're just worried about this game this week. But yourself, there's always down the road planning, and there's things that you want to do. And just like I said, playing against Manchester, they were really kind of vanilla. Bowden just really didn't show all their athletes. They have a ton of skilled players. I was very proud of the offensive line. The whole offensive line's new. And the offensive line they had last year was one of the best that I've seen around here in many, many years. Those cats were good.
Yeah.
I don't care what classification you were in. They were big, they were strong, they were fast, they were well coached, and they were just mean and dirty. Somebody like Stumpy Bailey. Stumpy Bailey is just a mean cat. That's the guy you want in front of you whenever you run into football.
Yeah, and I heard too a few people talk about their O-line, like we said, was so big for them last year, but you got to think those guys that are returning this year was practicing against those guys.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like, we compare it to Georgia, Alabama. They're so successful over these years because those 2s could go start for anybody in the country, basically.
Right.
Same in this area. Bowden's backups probably could have went and played for a lot of schools last year because their O-line was so successful.
Right.
So you got to think, those kids have waited their turn. They're coming in. They're still finding themselves. And let's also not forget, they've had some guys move in, which who doesn't when you're successful?
Right.
Let's go ahead and get that on the table.
You
win, you get ball players.
Breeds it.
That's right. So they're still trying to find themselves on how to mold their culture with what they've came from, learning the Bowden way. It'll all come together. I mean, it ain't just going to happen overnight.
They're going to be fine. Bowden's going to be fine. They got a great football team. They got a great head coach.
They got a great supporting cast.
Yeah, their whole everybody there. I mean, the Red Devils are going to be fine. Like I said, it's just a chip in the armor early. And if I'm a head coach, I go ahead and let's take it early. And like Tom said, you'll see these guys later on down the road. I promise you, when they see them later on down the road, they're going to have they're going to have a little extra oomph in their step
Oh,
whenever
yeah.
they meet the Manchester again, and
Well,
they will. They'll see them again.
We were talking Friday night on the post-game show about this little juggernaut, if you will, the first 3 games of the year for Bowden. Bowden could go 0-3 and still run off and win a state championship.
Yep.
Because they got, Manchester wasn't just the first test. They're going to have a big test Friday night. That's a good football team at Central. And those guys want to win that football game. They don't want to lose to Bowden. That is the last thing Central wants to do. And then we look, and then we talk about Bremen, who played a very good Heard County team Friday night, and put a goose egg on them, 24-0. I never expected that. So Bowden could go 0-3, like I said, to start the season and wind up winning a state championship. I'm sure the Bowden faithful, they don't want to lose, and the players don't want to lose, and the coaches don't want to lose. But they had the number 5 team in the state on the road, had a chance to beat them, got beat. Then they got Central on the road, and then they get Bremen coming in. And Bremen's, on a high, especially if Bremen wins Friday night. If Bremen beats Haralson County Friday night, which I personally think that Bremen's the better team right now, and Bremen's 2-0 going into Bowden. Bowden could be 0-2 with, again, 2 really good football teams. So that's 3 in a row for Bowden to start the season.
Then you got to go back to when you always say Bremen Bowden. It don't matter what records are. That game,
it doesn't.
Whoever's got the momentum and the juice for that game, it's just something always in the air. So we can sit there and look at score or records and all those things, but that game for some reason it could be the worst Bowden team or the worst Bremen. It don't even matter. When it comes to that game of kickoff, you better be focused on what you're doing.
How many times did you have like a 9-0 Bremen or a 9-0 Bowden team, and those two face each other, and the other team's got 5 wins, and then all of a sudden they upset the undefeated football? It doesn't matter when it comes to Bowden and Bremen. So you're exactly right.
It's the greatest rivalry in high school in the state of Georgia, in my opinion. Now, the longest running is Gordon Lee and Trine, but I still feel like one of the greatest rivalries in all of high school football, and it's nothing no better than these small communities. Let's move on to Bremen, Heard County, 24-0. Tim, you called that game Friday night. Again, guys, I was very surprised. I thought Bremen had could win this game. I thought it was either way. I didn't know that it was going to be a 24-0 kind of ball game.
Yeah,
I felt like that it was going to be more like a 14-13 or 15-13 kind of ball game.
Yeah, I was there, and heck, you were there. I think the Bremen kids, they played their butts off. They kept the momentum. One of the biggest plays, and you probably didn't see it, I'm sure Bremen staff saw it, Par Folsom in the first quarter, I want to say, got hit. He got popped. That joker popped his butt off, told him he needed a blow, and that sucker went back in the game. And, for me as a former player, all that good stuff, and as a coach, when you see one of your kids like that show that toughness and gets back up, what better example to set the tempo for the rest of the game? So for me, coaching in me, I'm looking at that and I'm like, what a statement right there. He popped up, got him a breather, and come back in and started toting it again. So, my hat off to that kid. He was like a really tone setter for that game.
Well, it's just one of those things, like I said, we just took your best. I just took your best shot, and if that's the best that you got, then I'm coming.
Yeah.
It's on now. Tim?
I think that kind of characterizes their whole football team. They're just a tough, hard-nosed football team. Rooster calls them his runts. They are runts. They're getting bigger, and they got some experience under their belt. Last year, just whenever they played Cedar Grove, they had to go to Cedar Grove in that first playoff game. We were talking about this Friday. They showed some signs of life against one of the best teams in the whole Southeast.
Yeah.
Cedar Grove was good,
Oh, yeah.
good. They had Division I football players standing on the sidelines watching, watching that game. So it was, but they had I think they had 9 sophomores starting on offense. Whenever that a lot of kids couldn't even drive.
Yeah.
And they played that football team really good in the first quarter, and I felt good about that team, this team, because they're growing up now. They've been on the field. They got battle tested. They got thrown into the fire last year, but they're just tough. They're really, really tough. I think they take on, you kind of take on your head coach's characteristics. Like I said, I've said it before. He was a 5'10", 200-pound center for a 2-time national championship team. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's tough. He's a tough guy, and that's the way he plays. And These kids play with a lot of heart. You was talking about Folsom at the end of the game. This kid in the second half probably run the ball 25 times. I mean, they just pounded it and got the clock out. But he pounded the football and moved it and did what they had to do to chew the clock up and just finish the game off. They sent him out with about a minute and a half left in the game. I think he's going to take his helmet off. No, he's standing on the sidelines with his hands on his hips, expecting to go back in for a couple more plays. But it's just that they're a tough football team. They're going to be tough to deal with. They got a chip on their shoulder from last year. They felt like they could be better, and it's one of those deals they've won their whole life. Whenever they were kids,
That's right.
They won growing up. But you had a bunch of kids playing a bunch of men last year, and now your kids are growing into men. So it's going to be different this year, I think.
Well, you hit the nail on the head last year. Near the end of the year, I think it was playoff time when we were talking about them in Cedar Grove. A bunch of 9th and 10th graders, like he said. Those kids are used to playing on Monday and Thursday.
Yeah.
Not on Friday night. So, you got 18-year-olds playing against 14 to 15-year-olds. And it ain't one or two, like a J.R. Harris, who's a sophomore over there, a freshman over there, or at Central. You know what I'm saying? Is that I kind of lost my mind there. I lost my whole train of thought.
Yeah,
I was talking about what I'm saying is you had a JV team playing a varsity schedule.
Yeah.
And they held their own.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But now this year, those cats have all that experience. First round of the playoffs, one of the best teams in the state in all classifications that they had to play. They hung in there with them for at least a good half of football with one of the best teams in the state. Again, to me, you hit it last year when you said it's a JV team playing a varsity schedule.
Yeah.
But by the end of the year, they're ready to roll.
I think Kel can probably relate as much as anybody. I mean, you probably played some as a freshman, and I know you played a lot as a dang sophomore.
Yep.
So you had to grow up, and
Yep.
it's kind of an eye opener. I remember when I was a kid, getting to play a little bit with the varsity as a sophomore. All of a sudden, you're the big guy on campus whenever you're in middle school and all that stuff, and then you step up into that arena and you're like, man, my best isn't even close to being as good as some of these cats because they're so much bigger, they're so much stronger and faster, and it takes so much. But then whenever you do actually step up and get that strength and that speed and you start growing into being a young man, it's just it's a heck of a lot different. I think they're going to have a lot of fun this year, and like I said, they got a chip on their shoulder, and I expect a lot of good things out of Bremen this year.
Yep, I agree completely. Like I said, the tone setter was par for me. I was sold, and then you go down and look at is it A.J. Sanders is his name?
Yeah.
12?
Yeah.
That joker boy, like 50 pounds, 60 pounds, that sucker's everywhere. I mean, he reminds me of, and y'all probably agree with this. In 18, there was a kid named Cade Berry that was everywhere.
Yeah.
He is a miniature version of Cade to
Yeah.
me. I mean, because he's everywhere. I mean, and he's a big tone setter for them defensively. So that toughness is what's definitely going to drive them to win more ball games.
Yeah, somebody called in was talking about Cole Pruitt. He's a junior. That moved,
That's right.
This kid's used to being the headhunter, the tough man on campus, and he had to do the same thing. He had to sit behind, some guys, last year, and he didn't get as many opportunities to play. And man, God Almighty, that kid looked good. He was all over the field, But yeah, I think they're going to be. I think they're going to be pretty good this year. Carson Kimball too. I was impressed with him as his first time under center as a starting quarterback. Yep. He managed the football game very well. He's huge. He's a big kid. I had no idea how big he was.
Yeah.
There was a ton of times it was 3rd and 1. He got in for a couple of touchdowns from like the 2-yard line on a goose and go up the middle, and he managed that game very well. Threw the ball well the few times he did throw it. In the second half, it was just handed off to Parr, and let's move on. One thing to mention, too, Trent McPherson, he's probably the best athlete on the field whenever he's out there. It'd be a toss-up between him and Parr, to be honest with you.
And
he was out, and he's going to be out for a couple more weeks.
Okay.
So that's another thing. That's a huge
and
piece of the puzzle.
Barrow, too, correct?
Yeah, Barrows hurt his foot. You're talking about Aiden Price, who was a quarterback last year, is going to be the receiver where he needs to be because he kind of got thrown into that last year.
Mm-hmm.
He's a great receiver. He's got his arm's hurt. He's playing hurt, So I think when all this stuff comes together at the end of the season and after this juggernaut they put these guys through at the beginning, where you got Heard County, Haralson County, and Bowden, 3 the biggest rivals you've ever had in school history, that you got to play right off the bat. man, when it comes region, I think they'll be
easy.
ready to play. They cross over too with a different region. That Dawson, I think it was Dawsonville region or whatever. So it's not going to be Cedar Grove and Sandy Creek for them that they have to go meet up with, and Carver, Atlanta in the first round. So
yeah, three of the best teams in the state, the same
Yeah.
region.
Yeah.
But getting back to, I got my train of thought. What I was saying a minute ago was I got to go back because I got to clear it up. Is, like a J.R. Harris, you got a freshman over there, young kid running that offense, but he's surrounded by a cast of juniors and seniors. That team last year was a bunch of freshmen and sophomore, the whole team.
Yeah.
All your starters, just about all your, defense, your special teams. And speaking of special teams, Bremen has always done a great job, at least all the way back to when Coach Tollison came around, of having really good kickers. And that kid that kicked that 52-yard field goal.
Wyatt Mathis Klein, that was something that was special, man. The kid kicked it. I don't know if you guys saw it or not, but he kicked the ball. It was at least 60 yards. I mean, it was good from 60, I feel like.
Just
50,
inside the left upright?
Yeah, 52-yard kick, low line drive, just kept going. I don't know what he's been doing. He's been doing some leg presses or something, man. Everything he wants to kick is just low line drive. It's through the end zone touchback. He's definitely going to be a weapon. He's something to look forward to. He's had some problems because his leg is so strong, being accurate. And last year they had Burns that would kick anything inside 40 yards. Well, now it's his. It's his show this year, and he put on a show. He was perfect, man. Kicked that, broke a record his first day out. You know what I mean? As the leader as far as the special teams go.
Well, guys, we're going to run around the block, pay some bills, and come back with more of the weekly football preview show right here on West Georgia TV.
What we do here is not easy, but it's meaningful. And so when your job is meaningful and you know that you're making a difference, it lights a fire inside of you that makes it easy to get up and come to work every day.
I think the SPA's mission is just to make somebody feel better, create a better version of what they already have, or bring out their self-confidence just a little bit.
At 316 Family Medicine, we see patients of all ages.
We have amazing girls who have amazing hearts, and I think we truly care about our patients and their outcomes.
What we want to help people do is be the best version of themselves. It really doesn't feel like work. It feels like taking care of the people you love.
Since 2005, Caliber One Construction has provided the highest level of quality, integrity, and satisfaction in every aspect of their company, while empowering their employees to address the ongoing needs of their clients in an ever-changing environment through a passionate work ethic and innovative spirit. Founders Jeannie and Chris Elliott have made a commitment to customer service and customer satisfaction. That's why Caliber One Construction goes by the motto HYPE. How you prepare every day. Caliber One Construction, proud partners of WGTV and WGTV Sports.
Since 1985, Osier Apparel has been a leading provider of custom apparel, specializing in corporate wear, custom t-shirts, and spirit wear. As a family-run business with over 3 decades of experience, they have established a reputation for delivering quality products and exceptional customer service to their clients. Choose Osier Apparel for all your custom needs.
Inception Energy Solutions specializes in utility construction and maintenance, including distribution, substations, underground and overhead, and control wiring. They have a federal-approved and accredited apprenticeship program working in 9 states across the Southeast. If you're looking for an exciting career like former Blue Devil Brody Doss or Trevor Roberts, give Jerry Pounds or Hillary a call at 404-783-8646. Also, check them out online at InceptionSolutions.com. So join the over 70 employees that have made IES their home. That's Inception Energy Solutions.
Are you looking for a car, a truck, or maybe one of those popular Jeeps? Look no further. James O'Neill Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has been serving the West Georgia area for over 25 years, providing one of the largest inventories of quality trucks, cars, and SUVs in the region means you're guaranteed to find the model and trim which best suits your lifestyle. Once you settle on the perfect vehicle, meet with their team of finance experts. They can help secure you the terms and rate which best fits your lifestyle. Remember, there's no deal like an O'Neill deal. That's James O'Neill, Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Bremen.
Welcome back in. It is the weekly football preview show, and I'm your host, Tom Araquazo, alongside the coach. Two coaches, really. Yeah, Tim can do it, too.
I'm washed up now.
He can bring washed up.
Yeah,
I'm
washed
getting
off
started,
of
baby.
man.
Let's talk a little bit about, let's see, we got Temple Pike County. Temple rolled Friday night 57-6. The only downside really to that, I think, was Hudson Nix, the freshman, Coach Nix's son, wound up going down. Good news is he's going to be just fine. They were able to do a procedure that was not the bad procedure on the deal, and everything looks like it's going to be good. We even got to see him last night at the softball game over in Temple. So that was the bad thing of the night. Other than that, 57-6 Temple Road.
Yeah, no questions there. I mean, I was asked about that multiple times before they played. I mean, I think they had it set at Temple by 7, which is kind of a slap in the face because we knew they were going to dominate Pike. I mean, no offense to Pike or nothing, but they're still building. So, but no, that was easy game for Temple. I know Jace Glenn, he had a big night. I guess quarterback did a great job, Gribben, managing the game.
Yeah.
I know Manny, he had a huge game. And, one kid that is not playing yet but will be back hopefully pretty soon is Manny's brother Freddie. That's a senior this year.
Right.
So you still got him that's going to get to join the picture. Then you got CJ Gray. I mean, you got athletes everywhere.
Right.
So look for them, to continue to build on what they're doing there, and I'm very proud for those kids for sure.
Well, they got Christian Heritage this coming up week. We'll talk a little bit more about that.
Yep.
As we move on. Rabun County 45, Haralson County 21. I believe the score was Rabun scored a lot early, and then the second half it seemed like Haralson County. I don't know all the logistics of that game, but I do know that Haralson County played it all the way to the end because it was 20-something to nothing or 6, I believe, something.
Okay.
And then Haralson County continued to continue to fight it, or 7.
Yeah, and Rabun, they're not. I mean, I watched them in the Bowden scrimmage. It's not like, I guess people compare, they're not the Rabun there was, but Gunnar Stockton's at Georgia, guys. So,
right, yeah.
Of course they're not going to be. I mean, but they still, the quarterback that they have he's a really good athlete. He throws the ball well. The receiving core and the identity of Rabun County. I remember when we played them at Georgia Southern when I was working at Bremen.
Stockton's freshman year.
Yes, his freshman year. They're just tough. I mean, everything. They're well coached. They're tough. I mean, they play you all the way down to the end of the game. So, I mean, I know the score doesn't look, great there, but still for Haralson to stop them and fight back has to say, they made some adjustments, obviously, probably in the second half, slowed some stuff down, and kind of controlled the ball. So, you got to kind of see some positives in that loss and what they can work on to get ready for Bremen because, moving to this week, you're going to get the similar stuff.
Right.
But, Haralson, I'm sure is going to continue to do their Notre Dame box style and run the ball at you. So,
well, and the thing is, though, is Coach Peavy, if that's one thing that I think that he instills in his kids is we're going to fight. I don't care if we're up 40-0 or if we're down 40-0. We're going to play to the end of the whistle and to the end of the buzzer at the end of the game. And whenever you have a coach that does that, to me, even in the losses, down the road in life, is when those little things come into play.
Yep.
When you're 25, 26, 27 years old, you're married, you got a kid on the way or got some kids and, times get tough, you dig in.
Yep.
Because that was what you were taught to do. No matter what it is, I'm going to dig in and I'm going to go after it as hard as I can, win or lose.
Yeah, for coaches, I mean, when I used to coach for myself, I talk to a ton of my players still till to this day. But I'm more happy for their success that they have now rather than what I'd care less to talk about what they did when we played and when I coached them and all. To me, a coach's success is determined off what their kids do a decade down the road.
Exactly.
How are they doing? Family, like you said, job, what makes them tick, and then they can bring it on back and say, hey, hopefully I learned that from, fighting with my brother on Fridays and going through the grind on summers and all those things. It teaches you life lessons.
Yeah, Tim Barron, I remember him. I asked him one time, "What's the thing you enjoy the most?" or something like that. We were standing. It was actually before the semifinal game. We were standing in the football field whenever he won state that year, and he said it's comeback, man. He said it's when they come back and see me, come back and talk to me, or I run into them and they talk to me, and they're grown men. They still want to hug my neck and. They want to talk to me, like I'm still coach.
Yeah.
And he said, these guys are all big, huge guys now. He said, but, the comeback, when they come back and see him, that's the most rewarding thing he's got. And he's fixing to get ready for a semifinal game when he's telling me that, and that's just I could see that, man. I mean, that would be the best thing to me when a kid comes back and says, hey, you did something that changed my life, man.
Yep.
Well, and that's something that Coach Verlin best, that the conversations we'd have whenever we'd get ready to call a ball game, and we'd just be sitting around and talking or what have you. And that was, one of the things that you could just see his face light up. Coach Best, I think, 77 now, and he when he would talk about some of these kids, hey, Coach, some of the things you taught me when you was tough on me, some of the things you said to me, I do it now today. It helps me today. And they're 40 years old or they're 35 years old and they got a family, they got a good job. And you can just see in him how happy that it made him. And that was his paycheck. That was the true paycheck.
That's right.
Of doing it. Because we know you don't necessarily do it for the money. We do it for the love. It's kind of like you and I as community coaches and all the stuff that we've done. We didn't never get paid for it. But we did it because we love the game, we love the kids, and we want to help make them better people.
Yeah, it's a chance to get back in the dugout, get back in the huddle, man. You know what I mean? It's just you don't ever that don't ever leave you. It's fun.
Well, and it was like yesterday. We were at Temple softball. Taylor Knight's over there. She played softball for me for 5 years in travel ball. Love her to death. She went to college and played ball, and now she's over at Temple. But it made me feel good. Whenever she comes up and hugs me and tells me she loves me and I miss you and I wish this and that, But, as a coach, those are the things that you want, is for the kids to come back and you to see how you had just a little bit of an impact on their life.
Yeah.
So, yeah, kudos to Coach P because I think he does do that.
He does.
And you played for a guy like that. Coach Ricky Tollison.
Oh, yeah.
I got 3 sons that played for him as well. And that's one thing that if I didn't know anything about the man, all I'd have to know is what my boys say about him. They still quote things that he said to them. They still, how to correct whenever
ride off the road.
Yeah,
ride from here to Mumford on the side of the road.
You can ride from here to Mumford on the side of the road. That's right. But those are the kind of things. And Ricky Tollison was one of those guys. He truly is a guy that coached these kids for when they were 35, not necessarily whenever they was.
And he can tell you a lot about fishing.
Yeah, a little bit about fishing.
Yeah, Peavy's definitely that way. I'll throw this out there. It's going to be a tough football game this weekend.
Yeah.
Bremen's got something to prove because they felt like they give it away or Haralson County stole it last year from them, and so they got a chip on their shoulder. And it's always going to be just a hard nose. It's going to be a fun football game to watch. And if you're going to the game, get there early. I know they bumped this game to 8 o'clock because of the heat, but you better get there early because they're talking thousands of people going to show up for this football game. So it's going to be a
Beach Creek Brawl.
Yeah, it's going to be a Beach Creek Brawl, definitely. But
Haralson County Hoedown.
If you can't get there, hey, WBHS Sports on Facebook. You can watch it there. You can watch it on WBHS or listen to it on WBHSradio.com.
Yeah, I'd rather watch it. It looks good, too. You do a great job. But, yeah, that rivalry is just another one of the things. Don't get me talking about the schools and the rivalries that don't play each other because I could be here for 2 hours because, first of all, like he just said, thousands of people are coming.
Yep.
So that makes good for the gate, and that helps your athletic programs. You know what I'm saying? But it's also great for these small rivals to play each other. I mean, it's just a big deal. But let's go to Langston Hughes Carrollton. That was the big hype game. ESPN2 was here, and 2 teams with 20-something Division I athletes, they say. But it was a really good football game. Again, other than the loss for Carrollton, the worst loss was Bryce Hicks. Bryce Hicks, in my opinion, pound for pound, the best player in our area. And he may be one of the best players, if not the best player, pound for pound in the state of Georgia. Still haven't heard about him, praying for him. Everybody continue to keep him in your prayers. 39-34, and it was a heck of a football game between two true heavyweights.
I'll tell you, I saw some highlights, and first off, Langston Hughes is quarterback. I don't know if this is for sure a nickname like Juju kind of or what, but I think it's Air Nolan. He's committed to Ohio State.
Right.
My gosh,
He's
he's
a
got
bad dude.
ice in his veins, boy. Some of the plays he
Now,
made
he's a
in that
senior,
game,
though, right?
he's going to Ohio State, but some of the plays he made to convert to get them on that last drive to win the game, wow. And from what I heard too, the backup from Carrollton, I can't remember his name exactly.
Kamari or
that's
something
right,
like
Kamari. He came in and did a heck of a job.
Did a
and
great
now you got to look at, yes, there's all this hype with Juju, amazing athlete, once in a lifetime, kind of like Trevor Lawrence, all this kind of stuff. But he is not that, and this is just the coach in me coming out, he is not that without a good back to complement him.
Right.
And
And
hopefully
an offensive line,
yes,
and some receivers
exactly.
and catch a football.
But hopefully Kamari will fill in for Bryce and start finding his way, and they'll start tailoring, to what he does best, and their offense will take off hopefully this week against South Paulton.
Well, Carrollton's just one of those teams, though, guys. They're just loaded. They're always loading. They're just reloading and reloading and reloading. The backups, you don't really know a lot about them,
That's
but
right.
they're great football players as well until they get their opportunity and they get on the field, and then they're going to be able to show what they can do. But that coaching staff over there, and I'm
Wow.
telling you, I will say this about Juju as well. Last year, him as a freshman, I hadn't got to see him play, but I didn't buy all the hype because I hadn't seen him. All I kept hearing, talk's cheap to me. I want to see it. Prove to me what you can do. In that state championship game, although they got beat pretty bad when you look at the score, that kid made throws and he made plays that college juniors and seniors can't do. Or they're doing, and he's 14 years old and
Yeah.
a freshman in high school.
Yeah.
But the thing that got me was he made those plays against one of the best defensive teams and fast defenses that I've seen in a long time. There's 4 or 5 defensive players on that Mill Creek team. Wasn't it
One
Mill
of
Creek?
them, named Caleb Downs that went to Alabama.
Come on.
No
Yeah.
big deal.
Yeah, I think one's going to South Carolina, one's at Clemson. You know what I'm saying? You got some cats out there on that defensive side of the football that were really, really good, and he made some incredible throws. And one of the ones that stuck with me is an out pattern. Guy was blanketed. One of these cats was on him, and he puts it right here on the sideline. Oh, yeah. He puts it right here on the sidelines, right in his hands, and I was like, there's no way. Rolling to his right, throws a 35-yard pass down the field and hits a cat in stride right on the sidelines, right in the hands, where only he can get it. When he threw that pass against that team, I was like, good Lord, this kid may be exactly what everybody says he is.
Well, I think one of the things too, everybody says this. I just said it. Even he's a once in a lifetime or generational athlete, whatever,
Yeah.
for high school.
Right.
But it's not like he hasn't worked for it.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
I've heard it a million times, and if there's any coaches watching this, they'll agree. Kid comes to you senior and junior year, I want to play college ball. Are you sure you want to play college ball? Are you sure you're going to put in the work for this? Juju has been training for this since middle school.
Right.
And it's not one of those deals where he just set up one day, oh, hey, I want to go play college ball. Because for him to commit to USC, he has worked since he's probably younger than sixth grade to make this opportunity
As a
happen.
sophomore.
Yeah,
too.
I mean, it's like it just didn't happen. He worked for it to get where he is. So I, tip my hat to him. He has
all you can
worked
do.
his tail off for it.
Yeah, and I just hope he stays healthy, and I wish him all the best. I hope he goes on and wins a Heisman Trophy and
Super Bowl.
maybe, not a
Yeah.
national championship.
Yeah.
USC, I don't know if they're going to be able to win a national championship. They might. Can't ever tell. Whenever you get players like Juju coming in,
Everybody
and
wants to play with him.
What's them cats that's coaching up there?
Yeah.
Hey, USC's going to be good this year. USC's a good program. They always
yeah.
have been. Traditional
Absolutely.
program. If I'm a kid
Cali.
USC, yeah, man. Go to Cali. That's pretty nice out there.
Yeah.
I
You've
mean,
been with all the movie stars.
Yeah, not to mention, there's a lot of Cali money out there too.
Yep.
California, we said when the NIL started coming in, California, the Hollywood money, and Texas, and you say whatever you want to. This kid's put a lot of time in. He's worked his butt off, and whether he takes the money or whatever he does, hey, more power to him. Hey, and now shout out to his mom and dad for being able to keep this kid grounded and
because he is. Now that's one thing that I can say.
He's a professional at that young of an age. He's a professional.
He very much is. He definitely is. You can see it in his eyes too, and he's working out before the game and stuff like that. It's business.
Yep.
When he steps on the football field.
Just throw in Cedartown Rockmart 13-12. Last week they played on a Thursday night. That's another great rivalry in the state of Georgia. Two teams in Polk County, kind of like Haralson County and Bremen, the only two in the county. But those two got it on 13-12. Rockmart they looked like they were going for two when they scored at the end of the game to try to go for the win. Then I believe a timeout, and then they went to kick it, and the holder, bad snap. He tries to corral it, fumbles it around, then has to try to run with it. He gets knocked down. Another one of those things. If Biff and them get the 2-point conversion, if they went for two and got the 2-point conversion, he'd have been the hero. But he decided to kick it, and then and then they get it and they miss it, so they lose 13-12 against the Rivals. Two really good football teams, though. Two really good coaching staffs. Those two have really good established programs.
They do. Sometimes in that example you use with Biff and them, sometimes the best thing to do is just let the kicker go kick. Don't let him think about it. Don't ice your own kicker.
Right.
That actually happened with Bremen with a 52-yarder, man. They jumped out on the field. We were wondering if they were going to send him out. He ran right out on the field. It was a quick snap, drop it, kick it, and he didn't have time to think about what was going on. He just
done his job.
Kick it hard as you can.
And that's a rehearsal. Good staffs are doing that all the time, just randomly, field goal, and make them go. So, I mean, that was easy for him. So
yeah.
Mount Zion was off. Villarica was off. We're going to take Run Around the Block, pay some bills, and we're going to talk about this week's football games because we got some doozies.
We do.
You are watching the weekly football preview show here on West Georgia TV.
Are you thinking of buying or selling land in West Georgia? Whitetail Properties land specialist Cal Hardy is one of West Georgia's top agents and would love to help you. Whether you're looking to buy or sell hunting land, farmland, or a rural home, Cal has the experience and expertise to help you. Find him on Facebook or call Cal at 770-296-2163. Whitetail Properties, proud supporter of the Blue Devils.
Old Fashioned Hardware Store. That's the best way to describe Messer Hardware of Bowden, Georgia. Remember when a person greeted you at the door and provided quality information and service? Or when salespeople were knowledgeable about hardware, plumbing, electrical, paint, and agricultural products? Take it further back. How about when lawn and garden seeds were scooped from bulk containers? At Messer Hardware, the best parts of the past are alive, well, and at the center of our business philosophy. We pride ourselves on offering the old-fashioned hardware store experience you grew up with. That's Messer Hardware of Bowden, Georgia.
If you're looking for some of the best lemonade in West Georgia, Steve and his crew at Incredible Pope Lemonade are serving up sunshine by the cup. With an extensive menu that includes strawberry, cherry lemonade, and watermelon, the menu also boasts a peach mango lemonade with natural peach puree stirred in the mix. If you are looking for your own cup of sunshine, give them a call or follow their Facebook page at Incredible Pope Lemonade. Located on 30 Dot Road in Bowden, Aryan Farm and Ranch Supply opened their doors in April of this year. With backyard gardening essentials as their main focus, there is so much more at Aryan Farm and Ranch Supply. They also serve as a full-scale farm supplier, and there's even some fencing options you can choose from. So stop by Aryan Farm and Ranch Supply today for some free coffee and all of your farming needs.
Whitley's Forestry Mulching and Skid Steer Service is your go-to for all your mulching, brush cutting, trenching, grading, excavator services, and more. Open in 2018, Ryan and his team have made a commitment for customer service and satisfaction.
For all your mulching and skid steer needs, give Ryan and his team a call. 678-378-0683. That's 678-378-0683. Whitley's Forestry Mulching and Skid Steer Services. Inbound.
Welcome back in. It's the weekly football preview show here on West Georgia TV. And now we talked a little bit about last week's games and some of the teams. Let's talk about this week's games. First, let's just mention Rockmart. They're going to be traveling to Cass. I think they'll get back on the winning track. I believe Rockmart's going to roll next Friday night against Cass.
Yeah, Cass though, they played Rome opening up, so I think they played McCourt.
Pretty good too.
Yeah, they're okay. But you got to look at both of these teams coming off a loss. Obviously, they'll make their adjustments, and I think it'll be a good game. But I've got Rockmart there.
Yeah, Callaway, Cedartown, and that's going to be a good one because Callaway's got a great program, and they've had one for many, many years. What is it, Coach Wiggins? I think, and gang
Pete.
down there. Yeah, they do a great job down there. They know how to win football games, and they know how to get their kids ready for big football games. And this is a big football game for them Friday night with Cedartown.
Oh, for sure. I mean, they're obviously Cedartown kind of has in my opinion, the upper hand. They've been tested week one right out the gate with Rockmart.
Mm-hmm.
Callaway was off, so maybe Cedartown might start faster than Callaway. Maybe control the ball because they run wing T. So, be curious to see how Callaway matches up against that too. That different physicality of the game, because Callaway always has a lot of skill guys. And for the last few years, they haven't had a lot of huge linemen like they did in coaches that were in 5AA. Back years ago when they had freaking linemen that were 300 pounds. One went to Auburn, you were handed a tank and get behind this refrigerator and go, But they haven't had those big type bodies anymore, more skill guys. So I'm interested to see how they match up against Cedartown's physicality of the game.
And it just goes to show you, though, guys, the game is really won in the trenches.
Oh yeah.
People can talk about all these great athletes and all these great ball players they want. We talk about Juju's and they're nothing without that offensive line. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
The game's won on that defensive and offensive front, and me, I played skill. I was a skill player too, but I'm smart enough to know that the game is won down in the trenches, and that's where you got to have some of those big bodies, and that's what I was talking about. And you got to have those guys that's just dirty. They're mean. They're gritty.
Yeah.
They're going to be bloody. They're going to be sweaty. They're going to be shirt might get torn or something, and that's what I was talking about. Somebody like that Stumpy Bailey for Bowden last year. Stumpy was just a mean cat. When he got down in that dirt, buddy, you better be ready to get it on because he's going to come after you every single play. And not saying others didn't. I just know Stumpy's just one of those cats that's just mean. You know what I mean? He's just tough and mean. And you got to have that in the trenches. Going in this week, let's take a look at Mount Zion and Greenville. Now, Mount Zion off last week. Another one of those them and Villa Rica were off.
That's right.
Week one. A little odd to me to have that week one off. But they do get two buys these years. Mount Zion at Greenville. Greenville is not the Greenville of way old. Many years ago when Coach Hostetler and stuff were there. Mount Zion, Coach Gordon and gang, he's got, there's just something about the guy. I really like how his kids respond to him. I think that Coach Gordon does a great job of that 3-5 defense. He's as good as anybody that coaches it. And I think Mount Zion's going to go on the road and win a football game Friday night, and I think they're going to win big.
Well, I had my very first coaching gig. I had the pleasure of working with Coach Gordon. So you're right. Him with the 3-5 defense, he obviously knows what the heck he's doing. He's been very successful with it. But I bet you $1 million if he's listening right now, he's going to agree with this. They probably practice tackling for a week and a half straight to get ready after the Bremen scrimmage to get ready for this game because just me watching it, that's where they struggled the most was just finishing tackles or gang tackling, and that's not the identity of what Coach Gordon normally brings to Mount Zion. So I guarantee you they did that. And then, Coach Joyner, got to work with him too my first year coaching. He's the OC. I'm sure they went back, reevaluated some stuff, and the game plan for them, they're probably going to get back to being like simple, moving the ball, controlling the ball, and those type things. Getting the ball rolling that way, it sets them up down the road for their tough schedule that they got coming. So they'll be fine. They're another group, just sometimes you start slow, and I think a lot of people forget too. This is for everybody. It ain't like it used to be. You are in pads for it feels like a day, and then they're like, okay, go play.
Yeah, it's time to play a ball game.
And then this week, for example, talking about our matchups, hey, wet bulb, we got to practice at 6 in the morning just to get a practice in.
Right.
And you're crossing your fingers hoping everybody gets there, especially your main players, or
Right.
enough bodies to give a look. So, for fans and all that, a lot of people don't see the actual struggle for coaches to get people ready for a Friday now, because there's so many rules that you got to go off of and those type things. So you got to tip your hat to every coach in this area for getting the product ready for Fridays.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, you made a good point, because we were talking a little bit about this before we went on air. And the thing is, you want your guys to be acclimated, because they're going to go Friday night, and if they've been practicing and it's 70 degrees and they go Friday night and it's 92 degrees when they get on that field, they're not going to, it's going to be tough at first,
Hydrate.
at least at first
Yeah.
half.
Hydrate.
You know what I mean? So I kind of like the idea of, hey, let's break our practices down. Let's go and let's take these mandatory water breaks, and let's take a few breaks, kind of like we saw with the softball games the last two nights. Is that they take a break, that 5-minute break. They're in the dugout, they sit down in between innings, they drink a lot of fluids, get a little rest, and then they come out and finish the game. But I'm with you. It's going to be tough, man, whenever you're practicing and it's 70-something
Got
degrees
the air
in the
conditioner
morning.
on in the
Yeah.
morning.
And then you go out there Friday night and you've been practicing all week in the cool. It's kind of like going to do them travel softball tournaments, and you're there all day Saturday, and your kids jump in the Winnebago and cool off in between games. They're not going to play good.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough. And I think that could be tough on some of these teams.
Oh, yeah.
Come Friday night, because
Yeah.
it's going to be really, really hot Friday.
Yeah. As a coach, I mean, I really don't know. Well, I mean, what can you do? It's going to be so hard to get somebody prepared for 90-degree heat with a heat index of God knows what it's going to be, and then you're kind of hamstrung all week long, and you can't let them practice because DHSA won't allow you to get them out there in the heat. But I'm with you, Kel. I mean, you played at the highest level. I mean, if you don't get acclimated to what your climate's going to be, I mean,
yeah.
when you go and play different states, say you go to Colorado and play. I know that's not the situation here. They go there early to get acclimated to the climate and everything,
So they can breathe.
so they can breathe and stuff. And and these kids, if they're in air conditioning all week long, or if they can only get outside and do certain things all week long, can't hit, can't sweat, can't. How do you get them prepared for what happens on Friday night? I think you're setting them up for more cramps, and you're setting them up for more injury,
injuries.
and you're setting them up for more heat exhaustion type situations, which God knows you don't want all that. But you got to get them. You got to get them kind of acclimated towards that, and I don't know what you do as a coach, man, to help do that.
Let me tell you what I say. They need to start school after Labor Day like they did with us, and play ball when it's cooler and not in the hottest month of the year. August, July and August, 2 hottest months of the year.
Hey, September's rough too.
But
man,
think about this. Not only are these kids going to play, you know how it is whenever you go down on them turf fields.
Oh, yeah.
When it's been 96, 97, 98 degrees all day long, it takes that field a long time to cool off. That joker, when it's 92 outside and the heat index is 100, it's 112 on that field.
I hit yesterday just messing around because I was talking to somebody and we got on this topic. I took my heat gun and I was outside and hit it on my fence. It's black, a wood fence now.
Yeah.
At 7 o'clock last night was 119 degrees still.
Wow.
Yes, that's great. Just
That's
to give
not
you
even turf.
Just to give you an idea, I remember Bremen brought the new turf in, and I was coaching. I had an 11 and 12-year-old team on Saturday. It was like 95 degrees, and of course the older kids play at mid-afternoon. You know what I mean? It's like 3 o'clock, so it's hot as it can be. We just about had to stop the game. I wish they would have stopped the game. It was too hot to be out there, but that turf was so hot. The kids, you couldn't wear spikes or anything like that. The bottom of their cleats were getting soft.
Mm-hmm.
That's how hot it was. It was
melting
actually
the rubber on the cleats.
actually softening the bottom of the cleats. It was that hot on the field.
Yep.
Just to give you an idea how hot. You could probably crack an egg and fry it on that field.
Yep.
Temple Christian Heritage. Now, this is going to be a much tougher football game for the Tigers. Not to mention, I believe they're on the road this Friday night. Temple, they can take a lot from that big win last week. And I think a lot of people got to play, got some, get that game time experience, and that's all good.
Yep.
There's nothing wrong with getting some of your younger cats and your backups some reps on a Friday night in case you had to have them down the road. But it's a tougher game. And whenever you play tough teams week in and week out, it makes you a better football
That's
team.
right.
And I think a good example of that is in softball. South Georgia teams, they come in, they're 28-2. You know what I'm saying? They're world beaters. And then a team that's up here that's 500, but they've been playing all these teams around here that are really good. Then they sweep this team in a 2-out-of-3 set, and they beat the brakes off of them down there at their place because they haven't been playing anyone. So I think this week right here is going to be a great test for Temple, and it's going to help them. If they can win this football game Friday night, then look out. Temple may have a really good football year.
That's what I've been saying. You got to have a statement win.
Right.
And I told y'all before the show, driving up north, you're down 7 points.
Yeah.
So go ahead and tell your team all week.
Yeah,
at
we're down
some
7-0.
point, you're going to face that adversity. So how can you overcome that? Keep your head. Christian Heritage is, for all the coaches out there that's coached there before in a game, it is not the easiest place to play at. I don't know why, but it's always a weird environment. So I would be drilling that in their head and try to come out with a win.
Christian Heritage is good too. You hit on it earlier. You know, they played North Cobb last week, North Cobb Christian, and they lost 42-21, but it was a tight game early. North Cobb Christian is no joke.
They're not a joke
they were 10-2 last year. You know what I mean? They were really, really good football team.
Well, and they have, if I'm not mistaken, that North Cobb Christian team has got a ton of their talent back from that 10-2 team.
They do.
So yeah, that's no pushover.
And for Christian Heritage, obviously Temple defensively all week, you better work tackling because that quarterback, that triplet kid, he's a junior. He doesn't like to avoid. He loves contact.
Yeah.
So all week you better be preparing them for that physicality. Well, it's Wednesday. I hope you've been preparing all week. So, you know, you got to get ready for that because they're going to try to pound him. He'll probably have 15, 20 carries. I would if he was my quarterback to control the game. So
unless Temple's hitting him. Now, if Temple comes in there and they bring the hammer and they start bringing the wood to my quarterback like that, I might slow it down and try to figure something else out to keep him healthy. And that's what you have to do. When you have a kid like that, you just got to go after him. You know, you can't sit back and be passive and let them attack you. When you're on defense, you got to attack them.
Yep.
Let's see. What do we got next? Let's talk South Paul and Carrollton. Carrollton needs to get off the snide. You know, they lost that game last week. Big game, national televised game, ESPN and all the good stuff that went along with that. You know, and they played a great football team. Carrollton, they didn't want to lose that football game last week. So South Paulton's going to have their hands full when the Trojans, and I believe that it's at South Paulton. Am I correct?
I believe so, or it may be at Carrollton.
No, they're at Carrollton.
Yeah, they're back home again.
Okay.
Yep.
South Paulton game fits over the last couple of years whenever they were in the same region together. That region, 6A with South Paulton. South Paulton played a really good Harrison team last week, and I think they lost by a few. But Harrison's usually got a great program.
They do.
A great football
Justin
team.
Fields' alma mater. If anybody knows that name.
That's right. So South Paulton, Carrollton, I think it's going to be a good football game. I think it's going to be a good team for Carrollton to play because, again, this is not a pushover. This is no Pike County.
That's right.
In South Paulton, if you will, or Greenville. But it's going to be a tough game Friday night because, again, whenever you're a team like Carrollton, each and every Friday night, I don't care who you're playing, they're going to give you your best shot. Their best shot.
Yeah, they're on a national radar. You know what I mean? You beat that football team. There's no telling who's going to be there, what scouts are going to be there, what Juju and all the folks that follow him. You know, there's a ton of people that know he just signed, but hey, still a sophomore.
Well,
he didn't sign; he committed. So let me take that back. He ain't signed with nobody. He's just committed.
Well, and that's where these old chunk of coals like that, somebody at South Paulton that's not going to get in front of some of these people and these scouts and stuff that are going to be there to look at somebody maybe like a Juju and to see him or what have you, or some of these other athletes that they got over there at Carrollton High School. So that's where a kid that is not on nobody's radar can step up, and that's what they want to do. You know, they're going to give you your best shot. It was like I was talking about with Bowden. You know, last year Bowden was the hunter. They were the pursuee. They were going after people. Now they got the target on their back. Now every stadium that they walk into, everybody wants to beat them because that is the state champions, the defending state champions. So they're going to get everybody's best game.
Yeah.
Carrollton gets everybody's best game because of them being Carrollton.
And see, for them as a program, too, I think people are forgetting they haven't won since the state championship game. Think about that.
Yeah.
Am I saying that correct?
Yeah.
Scrimmages don't count for everybody watching. But they need to get over still that dramatic loss, with the state championship game and then that being so close, national televised game. They need to get that win under their belt and then get ready for Rome the following week. Who's another powerhouse in the state of Georgia. So they'll be fine. Coach King and them, they do a great job. So
national stage, you lose by 12 inches. I mean, literally 12 inches. I mean, that kid was almost there. It's a great tackle.
Oh, yeah.
Stopped him.
They did. The tight end, Juju rolled out. There was about 3 seconds left. He hit the tight end. Looked like the tight end was going to float or at least dive into the corner right there. And they chopped his legs out from under him. He had the ball in his right hand. Maybe I think he had it in his left hand. If he'd had it in the other hand, the ball might have even just leaned over the goal line. But he was obviously short, but it was 12 inches. I mean, they win that football game in dramatic fashion, and they're going to be hard to stop. I think what you were talking about earlier, I think South Paulding, they beat South Paulding last year 28-21. I think South Paulding give them their best game they had. They rose to the occasion because it was a huge hype game and had this freshman coming in that everybody was talking about. But I don't think it's going to be like that this week. I think Carrollton's going to put it on them this week. They're liable to beat them. They may have a running clock. I mean, really, in the third quarter.
Paulden, new coach, too.
Yeah.
South Paulding's coach left and went to Paulding County, and then South Paulding got a new coach. So.
Well, and we were talking about, Bowden's and Bremen starting the season off with some really good teams. Carrollton, too.
Oh, yeah.
Langston Hughes is no joke. Really no joke. And we saw that.
Nationally ranked.
And then, this South Paulding team, I'm telling you, Carrollton may roll on them, but they're going to know they're in a football game.
Oh, yeah.
Those cats from South Paulding's they're going to come ready to play football. And then they turn around next week and they got to play Rome.
Yeah.
So, their first 3 games are no easy task either. Let's see. We're moving on. Let's Haralson County, Bremen. It is the battle or duel of Haralson County, the only 2 teams in Haralson County. So glad that this rivalry picked back up a few years back when they wound up in the same region and were able to play. I think it's going to be a good football game Friday night over on Beach Creek at, Taylor Memorial Stadium at Haralson County. It's another one of those rivalry games. You can look at Haralson County got beat, pretty bad, 3 scores against Raven. Bremen won by 3 or 4 or 3.5 scores, if you will. And then, but this Friday night, you got 2 teams, no love lost. The fun part of it is all the kinfolk, all the friends. That's what, some of these games like this in these small communities, that's what makes them so much fun.
Oh, yeah. That's bragging rights. Beach Creek Brawl. I'm curious to see, and you have to, and they'll probably tell you this, the game plan for Bremen all week, it's not like every other game plan. It used to be like when Georgia Tech, had Paul Johnson. You're specifically preparing for one offensive
to get
scheme.
hammered.
Yes. So how do you demonstrate that all week? Oh, let's wait. You got a wet bulb, so how was you supposed to create that physicality of that all week? So it'll be a test for them. I mean, because your back's against the wall automatically, not being able to go. Obviously, they went in the morning and all that stuff, but it's a hard offense to mimic. I've had to do it. And it gets so bad and so physical that you have to give the scout team guys bags because you honestly are sympathizing with them because it's constant
hammered
banging. Yeah. So we'll see how they match up for that and what personnel they put in, and how they move stuff around against Peavy and that offense that he's instilled there. And then for Haralson County, how are they going to stay in that? I'm pretty sure they still do cover 3 and running the odd man front, but are they going to sit back? I mean, are they going to walk up in their face a little bit? Is, Bremen going to take what they're getting? Kind of with their quick game, how they turned quick game into run game last week. So I'm curious to see what adjustments both teams make to, exploit the other one this week.
Well, I was really impressed with Bremen's offense this week. Yeah, that was the big thing. They only scored 200 points in the season last year. they give up about 150 points. They were one of the best defenses in the state. I think they were 7th overall all classifications. I know that's just numbers you're looking at, but still, that's impressive, especially with a young group. Their defense put up a donut against Heard County, and you know how hard that is.
Oh, yeah.
That's almost impossible to do. And
especially with Kerbo down there.
I think the difference is you know what you're going to have on defense on both sides of the ball. You're going to have hard nose hitting. You know what you got on offense with Haralson County. They're just going to pound the football. They're not going to throw it. They may throw a couple little hitches or a little rollout play action thing where your quarterback's got the option to throw the football or run or something like that. They may do some stuff like that, but they're going to pound it at you. But I think the difference is going to be Bremen's offense. Their offense is much better than they were last year.
Yep.
They're grown up. They looked really, really good in the scrimmage against Mount Zion. They looked really good last week. I know they only scored 24 points, which that's a lot. I mean, that's a ton with their defense. They could have scored 24 points in every game last year. They probably would have won 8-2 last year. You know what I mean? They were a really, really good football team. They just couldn't put points on the board. But they could have scored more points, in my opinion, against Heard County. The second half, they pounded the ball and did what they had to do to end the game and move on to the next game is what they were doing and controlled the clock. If they would have kept rolling the dice and pushing it like they did in the first half, they may have put 40 or something on them. Their offense looked good.
One thing, too, that, average person might not see, but just from coaching and, playing – Haralson County gets the advantages on time of possession.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So when you have your opportunities on offense, you have to capitalize.
Yep.
Because if they get the ball back, you may look up and they start the second quarter with the ball and there's a minute left and they scored on that drive, So you have to take advantage of your time of possession, and it can't be a waste. You got to come away with points, and the kicker is huge in games like that.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if y'all remember, heartbreaker in 20, our kicker misses it in triple overtime, but County, that game, I mean, it's like you're holding your breath because you know if they get the ball, time of possession, you're like, God, we ain't going to have time. We're not going to have time if we get it back, and that's what makes them successful.
It's a double-edged sword, too, because if they get down 2 scores, they don't really have an option to change their offense. I've seen them do it. I've seen them get down 2 and 3 scores, and you think, well, man, they got to spread it out. They got to go for it here. They got to do something. Well, it's not in the bag. It's not really in the, it's not in their bag of tricks to do that. They got to keep trying to pound it out, and it takes them too long to score. So I think if Bremen can be up a couple of scores by half, maybe 10 points or 14 points by half, I think you're definitely going to see the football game lean towards Bremen because and it's going to be a difference of whether or not Haralson County can stop this offense. I know it's not some big juggernaut offense. I'm not saying that. But they're just so much better than they were last year, and they have a stellar defense. I mean, their defense is phenomenal.
Well, and the thing about it is, people there are people want to give Haralson County a hard time for that offense. That is their style. That is how they play. But like you said, there is no coach out there that wants to play that football team on Friday night.
Oh, no, it's a bloodbath.
They know their kids are going to get hammered on each and every play. They're going to load up, and they're going to bring everybody at you, and we're just going to hit you. And if you can stop us, you can stop us. But, I mean, it can be dangerous for a football team. Just like you said, well, Paul Johnson, Georgia Tech teams. Those teams in college didn't want to play that. There wasn't nobody else that they played that did that. So they got hammered on with that stuff.
Any defensive coach will tell you don't have a game plan going into Haralson County.
Yeah.
You just, how do I stop this?
You got to be tough.
Where's my 5 up front guys that are going to be tough enough to hold us down? And then you got to have your backers. Who's going to come and fill on this when he might be, gap down backer and carrying? Who's going to be able to take on that shot from them big old guys they got? So it's just a lot goes into it, and a lot of people don't see that. But this is, for Bremen, it is a average person like, that Haralson County runs 4 plays. Well, it's pretty daggum hard to prepare for it, to simulate what they run. So
what did Coach Boone say? It's kind of like Novocaine, just give it time.
Just give it time, it'll hit in. Yeah, hey, there's going to be no shortage of toughness.
Yeah.
Come Friday night on either one of these teams, man. It's gonna, and it may come down to that.
It's gonna be a battle.
It always comes down to toughness with these guys, and it was a tough one last year. The year before, it always is. But I'm a little biased, of course, when it comes to Bremen. I think Bremen, they got a statement they're trying to make this weekend with this football game.
That's right.
Yeah, and then they want to stay healthy and get into next week because
Yeah.
they got a little bit of bad taste in their mouth about that one last year because Bowden put it on them.
Yeah.
Bowden went into Bremen and hammered them,
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Bowden Central Friday night, guys. You talking about no love lost. You talking about a bloodbath. You talking about a football game where two teams are just going to take the gloves off and get outside the ring and just go to wailing on each other. I really feel like that both of these teams are going to be completely wore out after Friday night.
Yeah.
Win or lose, how big the score could be, I don't know, because it's two really good football teams.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that Bowden wants to win this football game. I know that Central wants to win this football game. And I think both of them are going to just come out, and they're going to hammer on each other, give everything they got, and, best team wins.
Yeah. These two teams over the last couple of years, it's become like a
Rivalry.
huge county
Yeah,
rivalry.
yeah.
So be very interested to see how this ends up. I think, for Bowden, if I'm them, I try to overwhelm the young guy.
Bring
but,
pressure. I
yeah,
mean, that's what
and
I would do.
You have to, but if I'm also Central, I hand that thing off to the two horses in my stable and let them do their thing.
45 times
Yeah.
between the two of them.
So control time of possession, like I keep saying, and it'll be a good game. I'm curious to see how that one comes out. But two really good programs and athletes everywhere on both sides of the ball. I mean, up front offensively for Central, Big Eli Somerville up front. He's kind of that voice for those Hogs up front.
Mm-hmm.
And
him and Nate Horsley.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, and one guy that everybody's talking about JR and talking about Walton and all that everybody forgets about is daggum Ty Brewer.
Yeah.
He is the heart of that defense, that
And
toughness.
he's a bad dude.
Yeah, I mean he comes and runs to the ball like with an attitude. So I'll be interested to see how he plays as well in those situations, and I'm curious to see how Bowden maybe gets offensive, philosophy, putting more guys on the field and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting to see Friday.
I think the difference in the game Friday's Beasley, in my opinion. He's one of the best, dude. In my opinion,
He's going to have to be alpha.
I think he's
gonna have
different
to be.
this year. I think he's in a different mindset. He's the man. I think he's probably taking over the locker room this week after what happened last week. I think he runs with purpose. I know whenever they played Early County last year, and I seen some things that he done, leaping over guys, getting first downs. He wanted to move on. Even when they got down 3 scores, I don't think he ever thought they were in trouble. I mean, he knew they were in trouble. I don't think he thought they were going to lose the football game. I think he's the best athlete, in my opinion. He's the best football player.
Yeah.
Let me say that. I don't know if he's the best athlete on the field. He is a football player, and he wants to win.
He has a football mentality.
And he's very, very intelligent, very football and smart, just like you're talking, high football IQ.
When we start talking about Bowden, and I want to look at what I seen from him last week, and these two brothers that's come in
McGreens.
from Heflin. One plays quarterback. He's a senior, and Kyler. You talking about a football player? This cat is if I could go and just design me a high school football player, I believe he'd look like him.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you?
He's a good
But
ball
now
player.
his brother's a junior, and this cat will get after you on defense. He was our headhunter of the week last week in that game against Manchester. I think those two cats, if they can, being new this year if they can really grasp what this rivalry is, I think that those two could be a huge difference maker. Then you got, Bowden's got a ton of athletes. You talking about Prothrow, Perkins,
Wyatt.
just to name a few of them right there, other than these other cats. Then you got Powell in the mix, and you got, you got Bowden's a good football team, and I'm telling you, the football team that played last Friday night was really, really good. Manchester's good. They're better than they were last year.
Yeah.
And another thing, you was talking about that game last year, 3 in a row. That would be 3 in less than a year.
Yeah.
2 of them were at Bowden.
Yep.
Last week was at home for Manchester. So that gives them just that little bit more in that football game. But going into this game, I'm telling you, I just think that there's a lot of bad blood between these two teams, and I expect it to be a war.
Yeah.
And one of these teams could win big. They could win that. Either one of these teams could win this game by 2 or 3 scores.
I think Bowden does win this game by 2 scores. I'm going to say that. And Beasley is the reason. I think he's going to show out. I think you're going to see him have a really, really good football game this week. He's going to be the difference maker in the game.
To win.
Oh, yeah.
He's just tough.
Well, let me back. You know what? He's one of those kind of cats that he hates to lose maybe more than he likes to win, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But what's your take on this one Friday night? I mean, this is going to be a heck of a football game. A lot of talent. I'm talking about a lot of skill players, not to mention the 2 offensive and defensive lines. But there are a lot of skill players that can play ball.
Yeah, I honestly think just from watching both on film, I think that Bowden has to somehow get the passing game going too. I'd like to see Pro throw, and look, I'm being peanut gallery, but just me seeing – I'd like to get him involved a little bit more, give him more 50-50 balls, because
he's going to win them.
He can win them. He has that ability to do it. And then, like you said, getting Beasley going, he's got to be your workhorse on offense and defense. And for him this year, you know, it looked like a lot of pressure was going to be on him, but Dylan McGrin coming in the middle and having those guys at linebacker, that helps him so much. So. Yeah. I mean, throw the keys to him, put the pressure on him, force him, you know, basically to say, look, take us, you know, to the promised land. I mean, you kind of got to do that because, you know, Kyler, from what you see, he's a great leader. Don't get me wrong, but he hasn't been with these kids as long as Beasley has. Yeah, so Beasley kind of, like you said, has to own that locker room.
He is about, you know, he is a Red Devil.
Yeah.
Beasley's been a Red Devil all of his life, and not saying the McGrin boys are not.
Yeah.
I'm just saying they've come in, and it's a little bit different. Let me use this right quick. Bremen Bowden. Last few years, a lot of the kids that Bowden had were a lot of Bowden kids. Bremen had a little bit more kids that had moved in. They didn't understand the rivalry, to me. They do now. Once they're there and they play in that game one time, that's all it takes. You know, that was like Coach Russell. I remember his first year. You know, he was, you know, the same coach mentality. You know, we're going to take every game. We just want to be on an even keel. It's just another ball game we're going to play. He found out pretty quickly Bremen Bowden's just not another football game.
Yeah, it's different.
And there's some of these games that are just not another football game, and this is one.
Yeah.
Bowden and Central Friday night is not just another football game.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a bloodbath. There's a lot of good football here in week 2, man. I mean, it's going to be really, really good football, and there's a ton of ways you can watch and listen, and I love the fact that we're doing stuff like that now. You know, that y'all are doing stuff like that. You got more football games that you're going to be able to see. Folks can be at home and see it, you know, because a lot of folks, grandma can't get out when it's 90 degrees outside. They do it, you know what I mean? But if they can sit at home and watch it in the air conditioner, you know what I mean, or listen, you know what I mean? I think that's cool, and to get these kids a little more recognition, and they get to see it. So,
Bowden and Central, it's going to be a great one. Let's talk about our game of the week. Hebron Christian at Villa Rica. It is going to be the Coach Barron's first game ever as a head coach, and I think it's a lot of excitement. I've had people say, you know, why ain't y'all covering the Central Bowden game? Well, Central Bowden's going to have plenty of coverage.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to be at Villa Rica. See, we want to be there for Coach Barron's first win. How about that?
There it is.
What do you think about this?
I think don't know a lot about Hebron Christian, but I do know last year, I think we talked about this last week on the fifth quarter show, they had some pretty good wins last year, and I think they return a pretty good bit of guys. They beat Oconee County. That's one that just sticks out to me because of their toughness.
Good program.
They beat Morgan County, which I've seen live and in color, and they're usually a pretty good program.
That's right.
And let's not forget, looking at the scores from last week, they put up 70 points on somebody. Yes, it might have been a terrible team or whatever it might be, but still, if you put up 70 points in a ball game,
you're doing some things right.
You're doing something right. So, sounds like for me, if I had to guess, not seeing any film on it, sounds like they sling the ball around a lot. So that secondary for VR might get tested pretty early to see where they're at.
They put up 63 points last year against Pickens. And to give you just an idea, they played Cedar Grove in the second round. Cedar Grove thumped them, but they put 33 points on Cedar Grove.
Okay.
And what I thought was, I think it was the most that they had put on them all year long. They can do it a little bit on offense.
Yeah.
I'm sure we're going to have to get after them. They're going to have to get after them, get in their face or whatever. But this is not a gimme. I don't think it's a gimme. I think it's going to be a football game. But I look forward to it. I think Villa Rica wins the football game. I don't think it's going to be a gimme. Definitely in the first half, you might see a tighter football game in the first half unless some crazy things happen, some interceptions, fumbles, or whatever. You never know what's going to happen. But I think it'll be a tighter game, and I think Villa Rica takes off and leaves them in the second half and wins it by a couple of scores too.
Well, and see, I don't even think that Villa Rica's favored in this thing. After last year, I don't think that Villa Rica's going to take anybody for granted this year. Like I said, there's something about a season like last year that can help either do one of two things. Either next year it's not, it just continues to go downhill, or it's going to help pick you up. Yeah. And with Coach Barron coming in his first year as a head coach, and he's a young guy, he's got some fresh ideas. He's got, he's close to these kids' age. He's not real far away from their age. You know what I'm saying? So I think he can relate to them. I just by talking to Coach Barron, I really believe that Villa Rica is going to have a year, and I think that they're going to get in the playoffs. I think they're going to compete for their region championship, and then I think it's going to be a really good stepping stone first year for Coach Barron and gang over at Villa Rica. I really do.
I'm just happy to see Villa Rica buy in to somebody. Not that they haven't bought into anybody, but they're planning for the future.
Long time.
This is and then you got a great veteran coach, and his dad is going to be there too. So you got a young guy who's a winner. He's always been a winner, and he's starting early. You know what I mean? He could be there 20, 30 years. I mean, and I think that's what Villa Rica is looking at.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that's what Villa Rica is planning on, and they got a guy that's committed, and they got a family that's committed, and got some great coaches on that sideline, and at the locker room, they get bought in, which I think they've been buying into this philosophy that they have, the last several years, and you're going to see a lot of those kids from Villa Rica, the stud athletes that you played whenever you're younger and stuff like that. They're going to stay. They're going to want to stay home. Yeah. They want. VR is a big deal now.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's not just, hey, let's move on to whatever's bigger and better in this world of moving on to what's bigger and better now. But they're going to want to stay at home. So you got some VR pride going on over there. So I think I really like what Villa Rica's done, where they took this step with a young coach, and they're just going to try to carry it on and make a legacy here.
Well, they've had one heck of a coaching carousel over the years.
Yeah.
Since Coach Tollison was there now, and way back in 1998, they went 10-0. It was a really good football team, and Coach Tollison wasn't there but just a couple of years, and then everybody since pretty much has been a revolving door. They're there 1, 2, 3 years. They don't really get to establish anything, and they're gone. Coach, next guy's only there for a year. Then the next one's there 3 years. And the next one there is 2 years. I think, like Tim said, I think that Coach Barron and gang have made a commitment to Villa Rica. And then I think that the people in the community, the school, and everybody's bought in. Hey, we've got some people here now that wants to do it the right way. And they're willing to stick it out and help get things changed and get that mindset changed and focused in the right way. And if that happens, I think you're right. I think all those really good athletes that are in those, rec teams and stuff that's coming up and may move off somewhere or wind up somewhere else, I think they're going to wind up staying at Villa Rica.
Yeah.
And I think that I believe that they're on the verge of doing something special. Yep. I really, really do.
Yeah. This Friday will be a huge, for me, a test and definitely tone setter for what's to come.
Yeah.
So,
but see, we don't know. That's the thing. After we seen what we seen out of Villa Rica last year, it's kind of hard to say, what's going to happen with them. We do know that Hebron's a pretty good football team. We do know that they can score some points. That we do know that they can play some defense. What's Villa Rica going to do?
Yep.
Well, we're going to be able to find out Friday night because it's going to be our game of the week. It'll be live on our West Georgia TV Facebook page and on our YouTube channel.
Yeah.
But it's about time for us to get on up. Good Lord, we've been here an hour and a half. An hour show for an hour and a half.
I can talk football forever.
Yeah, man, I can too. I love it.
Y'all just keep going. I can. It's my wife's birthday.
I got to go to work tonight.
So. Yeah, and like Coach Best said, she's 22 for her 30th
it's football
consecutive
season,
year.
though, guys, man. I'm excited, man. You got the SEC. Vanderbilt's playing this weekend. I know it's not much, but hey, Vandy's doing
better than nothing.
Yeah, they're playing this weekend, and then everybody, starts up in a couple of weeks.
Then the real teams play.
That's right.
But it's better than Acorn and Ohio.
Oh yeah.
Right.
At least we got something. We got a little something on Saturday to look forward to. But good luck to all the kids this weekend, man. I hope they stay safe, stay healthy, and stay hydrated, man. It's going to be a hot one.
Yep.
Yeah, it's going to be extremely hot. A lot of great football coming up this Friday night. Again, we'll be over at Villa Rica for Hebron Christian calling on the Wildcats. This is going to do it for our first weekly football preview show. I want to thank Tim and all he does back with all the magic and everything that you get to see on the screen. Plus, he joins in and gives us some great commentary and analysis. I want to thank my buddy Kel Singleton, and we're going to be doing this each and every week and talking high school football. So continue to join us as we do that. But right now, it's time for us to get on out of here. It is time for us to saddle up and ride. Till tomorrow night, Tim and I will be over at Central for softball on the West Georgia TV network. And then Friday night, like I said, we will be at Villa Rica for Hebron Christian. Tim's WBHS Sports will be covering everything for Haralson County and Bremen. You're going to be floating around looking at
I'll be
some
at Bowden
games.
Central.
Bowden Central, and then you're going to be there
Fifth
for
quarter.
the Inception Energy Solutions. We got a new name. I didn't even tell you.
Oh.
Inception Energy Solutions postgame show.
There we go.
How about that? Got a sponsor for the name of the show.
Gotcha.
But yeah, God bless you, gang. We're going to get out of here. Good night.